Welcome back. So, week 3 of our practical application here, we're going to be talking about relationship and relationships. And I'm excited to introduce you to this practical application side of things because really relationships are where we begin to really learn how to apply, the intuitive understandings and wisdom that are coming in. It's where we really learn how to um, live our truth, and it's where we learn a lot about ourselves, not just because of the information that we receive in our, intuitive sessions and in our meditation and wisdom seeking sessions, but because of what happens when we start to sort of honor and live out that truth or those ideas in relationship to the world around us. So, the world around us and all of our relationships are fantastic teachers. And these relationships are placed right here in front of us for the purpose of understanding ourselves more deeply. At the same time, we get to help others understand themselves more deeply. And we all get to learn and grow together in this sort of earth school by just relating to one another. So it's really cool. Relationships are such a valuable tool for not only our growth and learning and understanding, but for our expression too. And when we get to working together and collaborating, on life, whether it's in terms of life partnership or creative projects, or we're working in the community together, or if we're just helping support each other in a quiet, holding space kind of way. There's all these different ways in which um, relationships enhance this experience, and almost they almost like they're a catalyst for growth and understanding and self-realization. So yeah, we can go off into the mountains and meditate and learn all these deep things about ourselves, but at that point we only know about us. And so we wade into into society and into relationships, and into relationship with other people and the planet and all things. And that's where we get to really start to put what we've learned about ourselves into practice. And then we learn more and more about ourselves and the world and how this interconnected thing works. So I'm going to offer up some questions about relationship and recognize that we are in relationship to everything all the time. We are in relationship, yes, to ourselves, and we've so far focused on our relationship to our soul's highest good. That was the purpose of the first week of the practical applications. Week 2, we were looking at our relationship to our physical health, right? And those things are all about us. So again, those are foundations. So that is like us going to the mountaintop and meditating away from everyone to kind of learn and understand what we need to know ourselves deeply in a spiritual and a physical way. But now we're going to engage with society. These relationships can be friends and family and coworkers and colleagues, collaborators, lovers, people that we're just passing on the street. We have a relation to everything and everyone. So these questions are broad enough that they can be applied into any situation. Just insert said relationship or person and look at that connection and ask these questions. But the practice is the same. Get into meditation. We can either meet with our guides, do our higher self meditation, maybe a mix of both, which is kind of what happens for me these days. And then start to ask questions. And you'll notice that these relationship questions are focused on what we can do in the relationship just to support our highest good, to support the highest good of whoever we're in relationship to. And it's important, I want to drive this point home. That's when it comes to spiritually and intuitively what we are going to hone in on. We want to remain kind of in our lane. Does that make sense? We want to remain in our lane, in that this intuitive information is about serving our soul's growth and its highest good, and about empowering us to show up for our highest good and the highest good of others. We're not necessarily trying to do the work for other people, and that's something that's become really powerfully has come through really powerful the last few years for me, especially as I got called to be doing more intuitive guidance. It's like, here's some information that's me showing up in the way that I can to support someone in their highest good. At the end of the day, they walk away with the information that I give them, and they have to do the work. And so these relationship questions are kind of very similar in that we're going to inquire about ourselves and what we can do in the relationship to hold a space for our highest good and the highest good of everyone. But we're not necessarily trying to ask, what's going on with the other person and what are they supposed to be doing, because that's not our business. Our business is right here. So you'll notice that these questions, yes, they might be focused on a particular person or relationship, but the questions are, well, what can I do? What do I need to know? So you'll see that in the questioning. So let's go through the questions real quick. What do I need to know about this relationship for my highest good? Very simple, general question. Just like, what do I need to know today for my soul's highest good? It's just, what do I need to know about this relationship for my highest good? And listen for whatever comes in. And that's a broader question. It can show up in a lot of different ways. Try that out for a really simple, one question, broad stroke. Allow loving awareness to bring through what you need to know for your highest good about the relationship. Another question: how does this relationship serve my highest good or my soul's growth? So again, this is just information, and we're looking at, well, what are the lessons that I'm learning here? What kind of growth comes from this? And this also points out a really beautiful aspect of what I would call the design of relationship. And what we're doing here is that our soul is going to learn and grow and develop from each and every experience that we have. So I very often, people will come to me with a question like, am I supposed to be with this person? Should I be in relationship to this person? Should I marry this person? They'll ask questions like that. And that question, I can't answer. One, because I'm over here and those people are over there doing their thing. That's not my question to answer. But also, in the grand scheme, our soul is going to learn and grow from whatever choices we make. So there's always lessons, there's always growth. Some lessons are harder than others. Some lessons are easier than others. Some things are more in alignment with our highest good and where we're going, and other things are not. But even if we stick in something that's not for our highest good, and we choose that over and over and over, it's like things are going to shift and adapt, and we're going to start to get, new understandings, new lessons, new learnings. And, the soul, there's no wasted experience on the soul. It learns from everything. We learn from everything. We grow from everything if we're in that mind, that frame of mind, and in that mindset. But we can ask this question: how does this relationship serve my highest good or my soul's growth? Listen with all your senses and see what comes in. Another question: what can I do in this dynamic to honor my highest good? So again, going back to us really only having control and authority over ourselves, even when we're in a relationship with someone else. Well, how do I show up for my highest good? And if we're in that practice of seeking what is loving, what is true, what is wise, we don't have to feel bad about honoring our highest good and the evolution of our soul, or the highest soul expression. That's what we came here to do. What can I do in this dynamic to honor my highest good? We can ask that question. And if we want to really extend that into just, not just looking at ourselves, but what it means to show up in the relationship, we can ask, what can I do in this dynamic to honor my highest good and the highest good of all involved? So with this question, we enter into, creative sort of collaboration, co-creation. This is the juicy stuff when it comes to relationship, because that's when we get into, okay, so in this dynamic, as things are playing out, we're looking for, is there an awareness here of something that I can be made aware of? Is there an information here that helps me honor my highest good and the highest good of all involved? So this could be a relationship of people. This could be like, all my the people I manage at work, all my employees, all my colleagues. It could be a specific person. It could be a family. But what can I do in this dynamic to honor my highest good and the highest good of all involved? That's a really interesting question to investigate. Listen with all your senses and see what comes in. Especially when, well, this happens in relationships that are smooth, and this happens in relationships that are rocky. Um, what part of myself is being challenged to grow toward my highest good? This is a really good question to ask, because sometimes we get into relationships that are very healthy for us, and we're so used to a particular kind of relationship that there's like patterned, uh, restriction going on, or we're pulling back, or there's reluctance or hesitancy. We're not opening up all the way. And that's because, well, this thing's really healthy and we're used to really unhealthy stuff. So there's some wires getting crossed there. Well, if we ask this question, well, what part of myself is being challenged to grow? You might get, you're being challenged to trust. You're being challenged to let go. You're being challenged to surrender. And on the other hand, what part of myself is being challenged to grow? You might be in something really unhealthy, moving towards more health in your own journey. And you might be challenged to speak up, to share your truth, to live your own life. So this goes all different ways, but what part of myself is being challenged to grow towards its highest good is a really great question, because it fits into any and all circumstances and just brings into awareness again, well, what is under our control? What do we have? What are we learning to gain mastery around or over? Because that's our wheelhouse. That's our work. That's our business. That's our garden to tend to. Not just all the time, but especially in relationship. It's so interesting how I feel in my own evolution through relationships and watching and observing other relationships and doing all these readings. So much about relationship comes in. We love to make our relationships about other people, but that's called projection. That's an ego thing. When it's all about other people, it's an ego thing. We have a role to play in every relationship, the good, the bad, and the ugly of it. What part of myself is being challenged to grow towards my highest good? That is an excellent question that no matter what the circumstances are, smooth or rocky, happy or unhappy relationship, there is something to learn about ourselves, and there's a part of ourselves that's being challenged to grow. This may be an expansive, growth. It could be a humbling growth. It could be a modesty growth. It just depends on who we are and what the dynamics are. But be open to that. Really important question. Last one I'll share here is, how can I support the highest growth of this person or this relationship? We can also ask that, how can I support the highest growth of this person or all involved? So those are two different questions, but again, coming back to, so yes, we are in relationship. Yes, we are dealing with another person or people, but this specific question is saying, well, how can I support the highest good of this other person? For example, if you're like me and you got a big open heart and you love to help people out, you might think you're supporting the highest good of someone by constantly giving, fixing, supporting, doing everything you can under the sun and within your power to make life easier for someone or to help them along. Not saying that that's not the right action, but sometimes it's not the right action. And that's an interesting lesson to learn. How can I support the highest growth of this person? Well, sometimes we have to release, sometimes we have to take our hands off the wheel. We have to stop trying to help or fix or control and allow someone to walk their path. How can I show up for the highest good of this person? We might be asked to, maybe if there's tension in a dynamic, go silent for a while. Don't say anything. Reflect on yourself, hold your light, hold space for the potential of what this is, well, yeah. But let this person come around. It's a big ego check to do something like that, but sometimes that's what relationship requires. It requires us to release, or to kind of pull back. Depends. I just wanted to use that as an example because it's almost, I feel like a lot of us are kind of conditioned or trained to, well, just fix, do, support. And that's just, sometimes that's not always the case. Sometimes we have to allow people to kind of come around to their own realizations and their own understandings. They're walking a path too, and maybe they're doing this work, you know, and if they're doing this work, maybe their guidance is coming in and it's telling them, just stop talking for a minute, you know, give a pause, give each other some space. That might be what comes up. But this is where we can really lean in and into, well, what can I do to support the highest good of someone else? That may require an ego check on our part. It may require us to do something that we don't want to do because, well, but I always show up for people, but I always am right there. Well, maybe this is not what the situation calls for. And this is what this kind of investigating allows us to move into a much more liberated, a much more free, and a much more spiritual relationship with all things. So essentially what these relationship questions are leading us towards is how to be in spiritual partnership. And a lot of times spiritual partnership looks like an exchange of energy and relationship where we challenge each other to grow towards our soul's highest expression. Maybe we learn some things about ourselves and about relationship. But going back to my very first question, which is, you know, we're going to focus on our spiritual growth first. That's the foundation. Well, relationships and spiritual relationships, or we can call them spiritual partnerships, which is a great book by Gary Zukav, by the way. Spiritual Partnership, highly recommend it. It is not what I thought it was. A friend of mine gave it to me years ago, and it sat on my shelf for a while, and I thought it was going to be all about romantic relationships, and it's this beautiful book about how we have many spiritual partners and they look all the different ways. Fantastic read, highly recommend it. But that's what these kind of questions help us enter into. They enter into a spiritual partnership. I honor my highest spiritual good. I honor your spiritual highest good, and we're going to work together to calibrate that. That's a beautiful thing. So there you have it. That's the relationship section. So give these questions a try this week in meditation. Try it every day if you can. If not, at least 2 or 3 times. And remember to maybe write some stuff down, you know, journal, track your experiences, because we're going to come back to these questions in a few weeks, and it'll be interesting to see where you're at. So I would recommend too, just for the sake of exercise, you know, pick a relationship that that is present, that's really present right now, that there's something going on. And it doesn't mean it's a good or a bad thing, but, you know, maybe whoever you're most connected to, or, you know, there's someone you can tell that you're going through a growth phase, or there's something that you want to bring into balance or harmony. Pick that relationship and then come back to it. We'll come back to it in a couple weeks and see how the information and the guidance that came in this week, to see if any of that plays out over the course of a few weeks. And then we'll revisit it and then go from there. And it'll be an interesting opportunity for you to watch the evolution of this guidance and this work, because sometimes the guidance pays off immediately, and sometimes it's a cycle and it takes a little bit more time. So it'll be interesting to see to kind of where you're at and how that evolves for you. But that's it. Relationship questions. There's relationship questions in the book as well, and I just went like that and pointed over there because my backpack and my book are over there. But you can't see it unless you're super psychic and you can see it with your mind's eye. That's possible. All right, I'm finished. Thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to see how this relationship segment pans out for you. Make sure you drop any notes or shares in the discussions. I look forward to checking in with those, and we'll see you next week for some work questions. See you later.